When I was very young, the artist was Chopin, Bach. Those were the composers who inspired me in music, made me fall in love with music. Brahms, Rachmaninoff, Grieg, romantic composers. That's what I learned to love. Then I had an inspiration when I was still very young that I would be in music, but I didn't know what that meant. I decided I didn't want to be a classical pianist. In fact, I decided that I didn't like the world of the conservatory because it was very closed, not very creative, very competitive, not about emotion. For me, music was about emotion. So, do you want the long answer or the short answer?
Long answer, as you want.
Okay.
We have time.
Okay. So, I always identified as a composer. I am a composer. So then I started to look for where can I go, where can I find. I went to graduate school on the West Coast in music composition. And again, I didn't like it because it was very restrictive. And women were not considered viable professionals. And there were no examples. You know, if you look through the history of classical music, you don't find, if you turn on the classical radio station, you don't hear women composers. I was conducting as part of my class, and I was told that women had no right on the podium. And I thought, okay, this is not very exciting. And I think it was about that time that I discovered electronic music. And I knew intuitively that it would make me free, that I could do it myself, that I didn't need anybody. I did need the tool though. So I met Don Buchla, who was the inventor of the analog modular music instrument. And I went to work for him right after school. And I dedicated my life to working with that instrument. And my theory now actually is that we're just beginning to realize that there were so many women in electronic music that were not visible. And they could work alone. They could work, you know, in their studio, at the radiophonic workshop, or wherever, and they didn't come out into the world. So we're just starting to understand that a lot of the pioneers of electronic music were in fact women. There are some good things about being a woman, especially when I was growing up, because my father thought that women didn't need to do anything. They needed to get married. They needed to, my dad always said, a woman needs to know two things, how to shave a man and polish his shoes. And so there was nothing expected of me. I was free. I had 4 sisters. So I grew up amongst women. And we didn't know that we weren't supposed to be independent. And we all were. One was an engineer, one was an architect, one is a lawyer, one is, an artist, visual artist, and then there's me, the composer. So the freedom that I was given because I didn't have to go to medical school, that was a good starting point for my independence. We used to think, you know, there was this whole period where women said, well, maybe we're not good enough. You know, they made us feel maybe we weren't good enough. And so the women got so good. They were better than the men, and it still didn't work. So my mother used to say, if you don't find something, you're looking in the wrong place. That seems silly, but it's really true. We were looking in the wrong place. We need to look amongst ourselves and create our own possibility. I mean, the impact of my being female on my work is many faceted. For one thing, my take on electronic music was very different from that of a man. I saw the machines as something intimate, something personal, something sensual, that I could make music that was very feminine, but not feminine in the sense of, light or fluffy. Women are very strong. They have a huge power. For me, it's the power of the ocean. It's a feminine force. There's a force and an energy that is our own. For me, it meant an energy that was very sustaining and slow and powerful, not lots of drums and noise. So then when I went out into the professional world, because I needed to make a living. Women need to work. We're not supported by husbands. And we have to get out there. And so I hit the pavement and in New York City, and I was lucky because I had no competition. I had gone to New York with my Buchla, and there were no men with Buchlas. There was nobody. So for me, I kind of avoided a lot of the problems. There were problems in many areas, like film scoring. I was the first woman hired to score a major Hollywood film. I was hired because there was a woman, Lily Tomlin, and she gave me the chance to do this project. And the producer at the film at Universal Studios was a woman. She had edited Jaws. Jaws was a huge hit, and they made her the head of production. And she, because she was in power and was a woman, could hire me. There was not another woman hired for 14 years. That's how closed that club is. The men, it's taken me a long time to understand. Men don't try to shut women out. They just don't even think of them. They're not even on the radar, It's like they don't even realize that the openings, that they're in control of all the openings. So now I think we're at a moment in history where we're achieving a critical mass, that there are women who have finally, they're not looking to men now to let them in. They're making their own possibilities, and that's really exciting. So it's not a competition. It's not trying to take away a place from a man. It's a whole new world, and it's our world, and it's our voice, and it's a new voice, and it's really exciting, Well, electronic music for me, first of all, it's in my blood because I did it when I was young, and I did it for many, many, many years. And now, in a sense, I've always been in music, and I've always used technology in my music. But what I'm doing now is going back, in a sense, to my roots, which is this instrument that is analog modular. So that's what I did when I was young. And now there's an opportunity because there's a renaissance now of interest. And I'm excited by that because when I performed this instrument 40 years ago, nobody understood it. And it was very lonely. Now I can come out and I can play and everybody gets it, So And what the machine is for me, it's like driving a race car. You know, it's powerful, you're in control, you're doing it. It's in the moment, you know, it's alive. That's why I like this machine. I'm not in a studio layering sounds, all that's fine. But what this is in the moment, live, making the sound move and dance. For me, I was inspired by a photographer. So I think the arts are a language and they cross-fertilize. So it doesn't have to be literally music. And I think that, you know, I was inspired by Bach. Is that electronic? No. So it's all a mystery. What brings us alive? What gives us that energy? I can't make a recipe. I can't say, listen to this person or that person. I think we get our inspiration just from life itself.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you. Free, we're free.